And it's wonderful to see you. Well, I guess it's wonderful, I hope, for you to see me. Who am I? I'm yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, aka Michael X, aka the angriest black man in America. We're going to have a powerful show here today, and the show is going to include three interesting guests. One will be a candidate for city council, Nina Ahmad, and the other two will be together. They are Northeast High School students, Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis. But let me give you the background. In fact, let me actually do the proper introduction. This is TV Courtroom, and TV Courtroom is brought to you on the first Friday of each month. Today being Friday, May 5, the first Friday of this month, we're doing TV Courtroom. And what we try to do with TV Courtroom is something similar to what we did, or I should say, what we do on the radio with Radio Courtroom. And many of you who follow me know I do a show on WURD 96.1 FM. It's called the Radio Courtroom every Saturday from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. And we decided to do something similar to that, but right here on TV. So hence we called it, you guessed it, TV Courtroom. And with both shows, what we do is and as you see over my left shoulder, Brother Malcolm, we do what Brother Malcolm taught us, which is to make it plain. And by making it plain, I mean taking convoluted legal stuff, convoluted political stuff, convoluted cultural stuff, convoluted historical stuff, and making it easy to understand. In other words, we make it plain. And today we're going to make plain something called Afro Day, and we're going to make plain something called the progressive approach to a new city council. The progressive approach to a new city council. And I have to say, over the last 3-4 years or so, that movement has begun. We have a lot, well, several progressive, enlightened, woke members of city council. No disrespect to the other older members or the other veteran members, many of whom did a great job. But I like the idea of a woke approach. I like the idea of an enlightened approach. And I love the idea of a progressive approach. When we say progressive, we mean just that, to progress, to move forward, to understand what we lawyers call evolving standards of decency, stuff that Americans did 300 years ago that you would never allow done today, 200 years, 100 years, 50 years, because as we move forward, as we progress, we have these evolving standards of decency. So when I see these young and middle-aged activists running for elective office and say and act like progressives, I'm invigorated, because when you look at history, the abolitionists during slavery, they were progressive. When you look at the civil rights activists fighting for voting rights, they were progressive. When you looked at the suffragettes fighting for women's voting rights, they were progressive. Why? Because they were opposed to regression. They were opposed to backward thinking. They were opposed to stagnant status quo thinking. They were opposed to establishment thinking. They wanted to move forward. They wanted to progress, hence progressives. So why am I talking about progressives today? Because one of the leading progressives is one of the candidates for city council. And let me be clear, I strongly endorse this guest, Nina Ahmad, but I want to be clear, my endorsement is based on my personal opinion. It has nothing absolutely whatsoever to do with the ownership, the management, the staff, the employees of TV Courtroom in terms of Philly Cam broadcasting it. This is just one man's opinion as to how politically we can move forward on the national level, on the state level, and right here on the local Philadelphia level. So when I say I endorse her, I mean I, not the ownership, not the management, not the staff connected with TV Courtroom, not the ownership, not the management, not the staff connected with Philly Cam. None of that. This is just me. And because I'm forward thinking, it's really funny because most of the folks who are progressive, or many of the folks who are progressive, not all of them, but many, tend to be younger. But that's not completely the case, because you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders is way up there in age, but he's clearly one of the leading progressives. In fact, the leading progressive in a federal elective office position. So when we talk about progressive, it's not really a generational thing. You can be regressive and be young. You can be progressive and be old. It's all about the mindset. The bottom line, the common denominator when it comes to progressives is, how do we help people move forward? That's it. How do we help people move forward? How do we help society move forward? How do we protect all groups of folks? Well, we protect them by fighting for them. We fight for them by being progressives. One of the things I want to mention is, one other thing I want to mention. So at 4 p.m. today, keep your dial locked. It's just about maybe 23 minutes or so. We'll have Nina Ahmad, candidate for Philadelphia City Council. And within the next couple minutes, we're going to have the two students that I mentioned earlier, two Northeast High School students, Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis. They're going to talk about something called Afro Day. And let me just give you a teaser before we hear from them in the next few minutes. We're tracking them down now and make sure we have them lined up. And once we do, we'll bring them to you. But about a week ago, Thursday, I was hosting a show for WURD called Radio Courtroom, as I mentioned previously. And on Thursdays, when City Council is in session, we broadcast, the station broadcasts from City Council. And a lot goes on there. But there was one particular resolution that was introduced by City Council person Isaiah Thomas, who, by the way, I also strongly endorse. He put forward something called that driving equity bill. I should say driving equality bill. And this driving equality bill basically saves the lives of Black people. We've seen on national TV so many Black folks pulled over by cops for minor alleged traffic violations. And these Black folks wind up dead. These Black folks wind up beaten down. Well, thanks to City Councilman Isaiah Thomas and his driving equality bill, that's not happening in Philly. And guess what? Memphis, Tennessee City Council reached out to City Councilman Isaiah Thomas and said, hey, we like what you got there. If we had had what you already have in Philly, then Tyree Nichols couldn't have been stopped by those 5 thugs who beat the slop out of him until he died. So the Memphis City Council reached out to the Philadelphia City Council through City Councilman Isaiah Thomas and did the right thing. Can you imagine all cities, big and small, doing that? They all need a driving equality bill. But my point is that Councilman Isaiah Thomas put forth a resolution called Afro Day. And Afro Day is an event to acknowledge and to honor our hair, our natural hair. We have 2 students who are going to talk more about that later in the show. Also later in the show, as I pointed out, is a city council candidate, Nina Ahmad. I should call her Dr. Nina Ahmad, and I'll explain that later in the show. But before we get to any of that, what I want to do is to talk about my personal, and I do mean my personal endorsements for various political positions. I, in addition to hosting the radio show WURD 96.1 FM, I also write a weekly column. In fact, I write 2 columns, but in regard to this topic we're talking about now, I write a column for the Philadelphia Tribune, and it's published every Sunday. And it's called Freedom's Journal. And each week I write about something pertaining to Black folks, not just Black folks in Philly, I do that, but Black folks in Pennsylvania, Black folks in America, Black folks in Africa, Black folks throughout the world. And I talk about, I write about things that pertain to us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And prior to each election, whether it's a primary election or a general election, I publish my personal recommendations. You might say, well, who are you? Why should we listen to your recommendations? Let me read from the article that was published in the Tribune a week ago this past Sunday. And it starts like this: my mayoral and other election endorsements. And here's the first paragraph. Why me, you might ask? Who do I think I am, you might ask? Why should you accept my endorsements, you might ask? Well, here's why. To whom much is given, much is required. I have been a trial attorney for more than 25 years, an adjunct college professor of Black history for 15 years, a cultural/political activist since my college days, a radio/TV host for more than 15 years, a newspaper columnist for 7 years, and an African descendant for my entire life. Furthermore, in the words of the great Congressperson Shirley Chisholm, I am, quote, unbought and unbossed. Why did I say that? I say that because I neither request nor accept any money, any jobs, any grants, or any personal favors or benefits whatsoever from any candidate or elected official on the local level, on the state level, on the national level. I don't ask for anything and I don't accept anything. As I said, I am unbought and unbossed. Then I write the following. Based on all those blessings, I've been put in a position to access and uncover information that can bring about justice, equity, and eventually liberation for Black folks. Accordingly, prior to each election, I use that information to compile my endorsement list. Why? Well, there's two reasons. One, many Black voters always ask me to do so. When I say many, I mean many. The second reason is, unlike the average voter, I have the time and the resources to thoroughly research the candidates. Consequently, I'm able to distinguish the good candidates from the bad ones, as well as the not so bad candidates from the truly bad ones. As a result, in the May 16 primary election, I'm endorsing the following candidates. And I'll talk more about each of the candidates later, assuming we have time. But right now, let me start at the top. And by the way, when we talk about the candidates for the May primary, obviously everybody knows all there is to know about the mayoral candidates. People seem to think that that's the only position that's up on the ballot. Well, no, it's more than the mayor. It's city council at large. There are 5 openings for the at-large spots of city council. There are city council district persons, and there's the 2nd district, the 3rd district, the 4th district, the 5th district, the 7th district, the 8th district, and the 9th district. So we got mayor, we got city council at large, we got city council districts, and we also got controller and register of wills and sheriff and city commissioner, 2 for the city commissioners. Those positions are important, very important. But you know what's more important than them? Each of the judicial positions. Yes, here in Pennsylvania, we vote to elect the judges. And on May 16, there's 1 spot open for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Extremely important. 2 spots open for the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Extremely important. 1 spot open for the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. Extremely important. There are 10 spots available for the Common Pleas Court. And you can make an argument that that Common Pleas Court position could be more important than the rest of them. I'll explain why later, but 10 spots available on the Common Pleas Court office. There's also the Municipal Court. And for the Municipal Court, there are 2 spots available. And then finally, there are 4 ballot questions. And let me go through these endorsements and these ballot questions before we get to our guests. At the top of the list for mayor, and I have no hesitation, no reservation, I am proud and even honored to say I'm endorsing Helen Gim. And I got to admit, I gave Helen a rough time in connection with that Union League issue. I called it racist hypocrisy, and I attacked her and I condemned her. Then I thought about the stuff that she had done in city council. And as a criminal defense attorney, I have clients who do bad things and I work out guilty plea deals. And I'm going to talk about those candidates and these issues after we talk to our guest, because you can hear from me anytime. So we're going to line up our guest. We're going to have, as I pointed out early in the show, two students from Northeast High School. That's Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis. And I'd love to tell you all what Afro Day is, but I just be repeating what I heard. You need to hear it from the source. You need to hear it from Amia Harris. You need to hear it from Kadedra Mattis. So we're lining them up. You're going to see them in just a couple minutes, in fact, just a couple seconds. And while we're lining them up, those are, again, Northeast High School students, Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis. Big shout out to one of the great instructors there, Kazia Ridgway, and we'll talk more about her. But you can see Amia, you can see Kadedra. I've talked long enough. Let's go to, I'm just the introductory person. We got headliners here, and the headliners are about to take the stage. And without further ado, we have Northeast High School student Amia Harris, Northeast High School student Kadedra Mattis, and they're going to talk to you about something called Afro Day. Let's start with Amia. Amia, before we talk about Afro Day, tell us a little bit about you, your background.
Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon. I want to give it honor to God for being here. My name is Amia Harris. I attend Northeast High School, and I'm a fashion designer, a singer, many other things. But yeah, me and Kadedra, we both go to the same school, and we became friends in Miss Ridgway's class in our African American history class.
You know, when you were on my radio show, you mentioned pretty much the same thing. I meant to call you out on the singer thing and put you on the spot and have you sing a few well, actually, I don't know if you spit bars or sing songs, but whatever you do, we might have you do a little bit of that before this interview ends. And I mean, before we come back to what actually Afro Day is, let's go to Kadedra Mattis. Kadedra, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into Afro Day.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kadedra Mattis. I'm an artist, and I go to Northeast High School with Amia, and we studied Afro Day. Let's go.
And you cut right to the chase. I'm going to switch the order from what I did the last time. I pretty much started the questioning with Amia. Today, I'm going to start the questioning with Kadedra. Kadedra, tell us what happened in City Council about a week or so ago, and tell us what Afro Day is.
So we were invited to city council. We were at a council meeting, and we were there. We were invited by council member Isaiah Thomas, who basically advocates for Black people. And we were up there advocating for Afro hair because of the discrimination that Black people face. So yeah, you can see that on the council YouTube as well if you would like to watch it.
And briefly, before we get back to Amia, what is Afro Day to you, Kadedra?
Afro Day is a time where Black people can get together and embrace their natural hair without having to meet anyone's standard. You can have it out, and it can be as curly as it is, and it's just natural. This is how you naturally are, and you're allowed to be yourself.
I love that. So let me give the microphone to Amia. Amia, tell us, one, what you thought about that city council event, and two, what is Afro Day to you?
At the city council event, it actually was kind of shocking because we thought this was going to be like something really small, at our school because we came up with the idea like a little bit before spring break, um, because we had a do now in Miss Ridge's class, and Khadija was talking about her hair, and then we started talking about hair experiences and how we face discrimination, wearing our natural hair, and stories growing up wearing our natural hair, and like how we've been, persecuted and stuff about it. So, she was like, oh, we should just do a day where we wear our natural hair, and we was like, you know what, that would be a good idea. So we started talking about it, and from there, Kristen Graham from the Philadelphia Inquirer, she asked to come and write about it and like take pictures of the students participating in it. And from there we was like, oh, this is nice, this is cute. And then from there, like Isaiah Thomas, I saw it and then brought us there. It was just like really shocking just to see how like God, like, ordained all this, and all this like came together just from like this one small idea in the classroom over a do now.
Those of you who just tuned into TV Courtroom are listening and watching two high school students, Northeast high school students, Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis. We're talking about something called Afro Day. Let me stay with you, Amia, before we get to Kadedra. What was the reaction of Black students at Northeast High School? Did they tend to support it? Did they oppose it? Were they indifferent? What was their reaction generally?
For me personally, it was a really good response. Like when I first started posting the flyer, a lot of them were that like the ones that couldn't participate were like, I wish I could participate, but I just got my hair done, so like I'm not trying to take it out. Braids cost like they expensive. They cost like $1 nowadays. But they was like, but next year or whatever. But even those people, they still like reposted the flyer and stuff like that. And I was just really surprised by the outcome. I know me personally, I don't like have friends or like people around me that tend to say stuff to me about it. But I know in Kadedra's class, like it's students in there that kind of are self-hating, Black people who will, tear themselves down. But I've been wearing my natural hair to school for a while, not in an afro, but like, I wear my natural hair all the time. But I was just really surprised by the outcome because nowadays a lot of people don't like to wear their natural hair. Everybody want a 42-inch bust down, or like nobody actually wants to wear their natural hair. And no hate to those people. Like you should do whatever you want that makes you feel good. But I feel like we should also, love our hair as it is. So yeah, I was just really
Amen.
shocked. I was really shocked by the outcome of it. Because if you see the picture on the Inquirer, like it's a lot of students that participated.
I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Let's turn it over to Kadedra. Kadedra, what's your experience with fellow Black students? Were they supportive? Were they in opposition to it, or were they indifferent?
Um, the same way with Amia. It was a little last minute, so I didn't expect too many people to, but nonetheless, the people still reposted it and was spreading the word to let other Black students know that this is something that we can do if you're interested. And there was a good amount of people. It was a mixed crowd of both boys and girls, and I was really happy to see that because like I'd love to see both brothers and sisters, everyone celebrating one thing and here to embrace one thing. Um, there were some I saw a little bit, just a little bit of negativity in my one class, like she said, because they're not really, I don't think they're really in touch with themselves. So they just saw this as any other day. But to the Black people that understand how much it means and understands the impact it has, they were definitely down to do this with us.
I want to ask you both, and Kadedra, I'm going to start with you. So, what was the reaction of white students generally?
Well, not to be any type of way, but I don't really talk to the white students, so I wouldn't know their reaction.
I hear you. That's honest. That's
Yeah,
honest. And you're not hating, you just
I'm not
doing this
hating.
Black thing.
I just get
Okay.
along with my people more, and I feel like they understand me more. So I just stay where I'm known. But
That
everyone,
answer you just, no, go ahead.
oh,
Please continue.
they didn't. It didn't seem like anyone really went out their way to be negative, but I'm sure there were definitely some remarks. There always is.
I told you both that I don't know you. I've never met you all before, but after hearing you all speak, after seeing you, and I got to tell you, Kadedra, for you giving the response you gave that, hey, I'm not really sure what they think because I stay with my people. That's why I adopted you both as my nieces, because you think like that, because you talk like that. You're not hating on any other ethnic group. You're just embracing your family. And
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Amia Harris, tell us your experience, if any, with fellow white students.
As far as like Khadija said, I don't have many white friends, and because Northeast is so like it's a really diverse school, so it's like I would feel like white people are probably the minority at our school. But the white friends that I do have, like they spiced us up like a lot. They was like, y'all look cute and stuff like that when we came in the Miss Ridgway's class, like the whole class was clapping. um but my white teachers, like, because we have a lot of white teachers, even though we don't have that many white
Mm-hmm.
students. But the teachers, like, even they were like really like, encouraging us to wear. And it was like, I'm so proud of you guys for doing this. And they were like really encouraging. But white people like, because as I told you, there's an article about it. White people were like raving in the comments of the article on Facebook. Like they were saying some really crazy stuff. And it was just like, how embarrassing, for y'all to
Wow.
be adults. Like these are the people that vote and stuff like that, but they have the nerve to come in comments and like attack students. But we try not to like focus on that. We just like, we're gonna pay attention to ourselves. We're gonna celebrate each other, love each other, as Black people should do. So
Very well said. And our engineer, our producer extraordinaire, Roland, put up a clip, a photo of the students. By the way, those who want to check out that Inquirer article, just Google Inquirer. That's spelled INQUIRER. That's INQUIRER. And when you Google Inquirer, just write Amia, that's AMIA Harris, Amia Harris, and write in Kadedra. Kadedra is spelled Kadedra, Mattis, Mattis. Just put that in the search and you'll find that article. I have a few more questions for you both before we wrap things up. First, before I forget, I need you to tell both of you, I'm going to start with you, Amia. Tell folks who Kezia Ridgway is.
okay, her name is Keziah Ridgway, but
Kezia, thank you.
she's you're fine. She's our African American history honors teacher, but she also teaches IB anthropology, which I'm going to be taking next year. But Miss Ridgway, she's like one of the best teachers. Like if you ever get a teacher like Miss Ridgway, like you are so blessed. Like she's so passionate about her job. She's like my school mom. Like she encourages me to like follow my dreams. She gets on us like about like following our passion, like because we're like academic students already, like we make sure our grades are good, but she's like, you need to live in your purpose. And Miss Ridgway, like she's the one who like talked to the principal about everything. And she's like, she just basically like she just supports us in this whole thing. And she just like, I don't know, I just love Miss Ridgway. She's like the best.
I
Yeah.
can tell. And by the way, those who are tuning in, you're listening to student Amia Harris and student Kadedra Mattis of Northeast High School. And we're talking about Keziah, not Kezia, but Keziah Ridgway. And I think the description you just gave, Amia, you said, quote, school mama, unquote. That's what I hear from students when I ask about her. I'm going to turn it over to Kadedra. What do you have to say about Miss School Mama Keziah Ridgway?
She's really the type of teacher that's not like that doesn't like just stick to the book. Like if you have something you want to say and you want to share your own experience or you want to talk more personal about yourself, then she's always there to listen. She's always there to help. She also has books. If you like, you can look up her name and all her stuff will pop up. And I think that's good too because like we need more Black authors. It's good to have representation everywhere you go. But because she's really, Miss Ridgway, my apologies. She's just such a nice and like free spirited person. Even on your worst day, she makes you feel good. And I feel like having her just like she really pushes you to do your best and be your best self, like the best that you can do.
If I were a teacher, I would hope that my students would speak about me the way you both and other students speak about Miss, in fact, let me call her Professor Keziah Ridgway, aka School Mama. Let's do three quick things before we wrap this interview up. One, I want you both to give us your contact information. So if people want to follow you on social media, how can they do that? Two, I want you to give a shout out to family, friends, and supporters. And three, give a closing statement, 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever you want. So again, three things from each of you. One, contact information, social media. Two, a shout out to family and friends and others. And three, a closing statement. If there's something that you didn't get a chance to say that you want to add, you're welcome to do it. Let's start with Amia Harris. Contact, shout out, closing statement.
Okay, my Instagram is Amia Harris dot underscore. That's AMIAHARRIS dot underscore. And on there you'll see like my artwork and probably some singing stuff. Pretty much like everything I do. If you want to keep up with me, you'll see all that on there. And my parents are watching, and my siblings, Amani and H&A Harris, they're watching as well. And I want to give a shout out to my two best friends, Amaya and Ying. And my closing statement would be to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image, and that you should love yourself no matter what you look like, no matter which like shape or form. Black is beautiful. You know, love your natural hair, love your natural body, love your natural self.
That was a wonderful closing, great shout out and informative contact. And by the way, make sure your family knows that I'm part of the family now. I'm your uncle. If they didn't know, tell them that I'm the new uncle. And now we're going to wrap things up with Kadedra Mattis. She's going to give us her contact information, a shout out to whomever, and her final closing statement. Go ahead, Kadedra.
My contact information, I'm on Instagram. That's vibewith._K. Shout out to my family, because I know you're watching. Shout out to my family and friends. You guys motivate me to get up and do new things every day. And my closing statement is, I just want everyone to love themselves, and to the people who still have some self-hate and they still feel some type of way with how they look and how they feel, I just want you to know that you are loved and you are perfect exactly how you are. You were never meant to change. And to those who are uneducated on some things and on Black hair, education is elevation. The more you know, the better. There's always, you can always find anything you want. Just look it up. Like, the internet is in your hands.
I'm going to steal that line you just gave. Education is elevation. And I'm going to make people think I came up with it. That is profound. I really, really appreciate that. Let me just give my quick 30-second closing statement. I am so proud of you students and students like you. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I do primarily homicide cases, adult clients, but every now and then I do juvenile cases. So when I do juvenile cases, I see young Black boys and young Black men just doing some negative stuff. And when I see that, I'm kind of overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, wow, the future is pessimistic. The future is dreary for Black people. And then I see and hear Amia Harris, and I see and hear Kadedra Mattis. And I'm saying, no, what I deal with in terms of, quote, juvenile delinquents, that's not the rule. That's the exception. The rule is Kadedra Mattis. The rule is Amia Harris, bringing Black folks forward so that they can be proud of themselves. Amia and Kadedra, thank you very much. I'm going to reach out to you both through Keziah Ridgway to see if I can have you on my radio courtroom show, maybe once a month or so, in order to update the community as to what you are doing and how to enlighten other young people. I want to thank you both and thank your family. And I ask that you all be safe and have a wonderful, safe weekend.
All right. Till next time, Unc. Bye.
All right. I love that.
Bye.
She said, till next time. Oh, I'm smiling from ear to ear. Thank you very much. I got to tell you, folks, when I met these youngsters about a week ago on a Thursday at City Council, like I said, I never saw these girls before. But when Councilman Thomas mentioned this Afro Day thing, and then he called these two students up, I was just blown away. And I meant what I said. In my career as a criminal defense attorney, the young people I deal with tend to be, quote unquote, juvenile delinquents doing bad stuff. Now, there's reasons why. They're not bad kids. They just got caught up in bad situations. Had their parents been able to provide them with better training through jobs and housing and whatever, these kids wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So it's kind of dreary for me and kind of pessimistic for me when I'm immersed in that, like I was a few hours ago in court, in juvenile court and family court. And then I come and do the TV courtroom show and I see Amia again. I see Kadedra again. And that tells me the future is bright. Big shout out to those young ladies. Again, if you want more information about them, the Inquirer did a great job. Just Google Inquirer, INQIRER, and then type in their names, Amia, AMIA Harris, and type in the name Kadedra. That's KADEDRA Mattis, MATTIS. The future looks bright because of Amia and Kadedra. Big shout out, mega big shout out to Professor Keziah Ridgeway. We appreciate her for doing the right thing. And let's go back to, before we get to our next guest, and I told you that today we're going to have a candidate for city council. That candidate is Nina Ahmad. And I want to be clear, my endorsement of Nina Ahmad is my endorsement of Nina Ahmad. It is not the position necessarily of those who are responsible for TV Courtroom, not the position necessarily of the ownership, the management, the staff, the employees of Philly Cam. And I also talk about candidates on WURD. I write about candidates in the Philadelphia Tribune. I write about candidates in Philadelphia Magazine. I write about candidates in the Pennsylvania Capital Star. Those entities are not the ones who are endorsing anyone. It's me in my personal capacity, expressing my personal opinion. And I want to say that today, especially doing these endorsements here on TV Courtroom at Philly Cam. Those of you just tuned in, you're listening to yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, AKA Michael X, AKA the angriest black man in America, AKA Denzel Washington, AKA Idris Elba. And I do this TV Courtroom show similar to what I do with Radio Courtroom. I take legal issues, I take cultural issues, I take historical issues, I take political issues, I take current event issues, and I, as Brother Malcolm taught us, I make them plain. So again, big shout out to Amia and Kadedra, because we were able to make plain exactly what Afro Day is. And we're lining up City Council person Nina Ahmad, and as soon as we get her queued up, we will be ready to go. And let me just say this, on May 16, there's an election coming up, and that election is critically important because the future of Philadelphia is at stake. And I want to be clear, it's not just people running for the quote unquote top position as mayor. There's an election for city council at large, election for city council, district persons, and controller, and sheriff, and city council, and Supreme Court, and Superior Court, and Commonwealth Court, and Common Pleas Court, and Municipal Court, plus 4 ballot questions. But right now, I want to focus on city council because of the 5 spots that are open in the city council at large. The person who I wanted to have on my show today is Nina Ahmad, and I need to call her Dr. Nina Ahmad. Many people don't know that she's not just a person who's active in politics, but she's also, I would call her a rocket scientist. I mean, technically not a rocket scientist, but anybody who has a PhD in chemistry is in effect a rocket scientist. So before we hear from her, you see her now, let me give some quick background so you know why I enthusiastically support and endorse Nina Ahmad, and will be making a campaign contribution. As I pointed out jokingly, she's a rocket scientist, but not so much that, but is a biomedical scientist and a molecular biologist and has a PhD in chemistry. You might say, well, why is she involved in politics? Well, we'll hear about that in just a few seconds. She's the former deputy mayor in the Office of Public Engagement. You folks need to know the importance of the Office of Public Engagement and what role she played in launching the Office of Public Engagement. In addition, she launched the city's Commission for Women Seeking Pay Equity and Ending Workplace Harassment. You think that's impressive? It is. There's more. She's the current president of the Pennsylvania chapter of the National Organization for Women and the former Philadelphia president of the National Organization for Women. She works with and supports the Office of Black Male Engagement and the city's Youth Commission, and just does so much stuff. But for me, the most important thing is that she identifies as a progressive. And to me, that's the test. So without further ado, Dr. Nina Ahmad, how are you today?
I am very well, and even better after listening to those wonderful young women.
Wow.
talking about information is elevates. I've been
Yes,
using information equals power. That's the whole
yes,
paradigm I'm working, but that elevation piece is even more critical. And
I love it.
I am deeply enthused by the fact, just like you are, that we have a bright future when we have young women like that leading the way.
Very well said. We also have a very bright future with you because you're going to win in city council. I gave a broad overview of your background, but let's say folks weren't really listening. Let's say folks don't know much about you. Explain in 3-4 minutes who you are and your background.
So I come to this country, to this city, from a war-torn country, and that has shaped what you call my progressive policies and politics, because I have seen that you can't shut people up. People will die for freedom. Your ancestors and your community, the African American community, understands that very keenly. I have lived that as a young person when there was a war that created the country I come from called Bangladesh. 3 million people died in 9 months. And that fight was led by young people, doctors, lawyers, farmers, everyday people. Everybody got together and had a guerrilla fight to overthrow this genocidal administration and fight a military. Here they had tanks, and these people had literally no ammunition. We did get help from surrounding countries, but the important thing that taught me was, when there's something important, you fight for it. And I stand in that sacrifice. The other thing that I stand in is over 250,000 women and girls were brutalized, sexually brutalized, to shut us up, to demoralize us. And they weren't able to do that. And I stand in their sacrifice as well, because in today's world, there are parts in the globe that is still happening. So our fight is not over. Our work is not done. I happen to be in Philadelphia that has embraced me and given me an excellent education. I have a home here. I have a family. I have 2 daughters who are, doing well in life. I want that same pathway for everyone in Philadelphia, people who've lived here, generations, and yet don't see what I've been able to accomplish and achieve because I've been given the tools. So I'm running because Philadelphia has a lot of promise. We just saw that. And we have to address the problems to get to that promise. And I intend to be one of those stewards making that happen.
You pretty much touched on it in your great opening statement, let's call it. But you describe yourself as a progressive. What does
Yes.
that mean?
That means, yeah. So by progressive, I mean that when we see oppression, we have to figure out ways to fight it. And when we see somebody being left behind, we make sure we level that playing field so they're not left behind. I don't have to determine people's destiny, what they're going to do, as long as they have the tools to reach their potential. And my job as someone who has had a lot given to her is to open those doors as much as possible. And obviously I can't do it alone. It has to be collaboratively with everybody who feels that we need to make progress for everyone. So being a progressive, it means looking at policies that dismantle the barriers that stood in the way of people making progress, and being really surgical about it. And we don't have a lot of time and a lot of tools and a lot of resources, but we have to craft pathways that allow everyone to progress and go forward.
I love the way you had talked about Brother Malcolm X behind me, how you made it plain, because Brother Malcolm always talked about making it plain. And I'm sure when people heard that we were going to have as a guest a person who holds a PhD in chemistry, that is no way she was going to make it plain. It was going to be way over everybody's head, but you certainly did make it plain. For those who don't know a lot about you and say, well, does she have any real history in politics as an official or as a candidate? I don't know about that. What's the answer to that?
So the answer is that I was appointed as a cabinet level position, deputy mayor, in the first administration of Jim Kenney. I established the Office of Public Engagement. And that office was established with the thought that those closest to the pain should be at the table making policy that impact them. Closest to the pain, making policy that impacts them. That is the operating principle of public engagement as a government, in my opinion. And I got that because I served President Obama on an advisory commission where he had appointed me. And I saw his Office of Public Engagement, and I saw the role government can play to really elevate all those who've left behind. And so having served at a federal level in an advisory capacity, I got to see the value of breaking things down to its very concrete, granular level, disaggregating data as we call it. Because if you want to serve people, you have to know where they are, what their condition is, and make sure the tools you're giving actually addresses that. So we can't have a blanket, one rule for everyone. We have to make sure it's attenuated and it has nuance as to how we apply these changes we want to make. So, and I also served as the president of the Pennsylvania chapter of the National Organization for Women, where we have been fighting for over 50 years to level the playing field. And we have a fantastic chapter in Philadelphia led by my good friend, Vanessa Fields, who comes from DC 47. She leads the retired group there as well. And we work hand in hand with chapters across the state to make sure we're looking, we do a PAC, we do endorsements, we also do work in different communities to make sure people realize what is out there, what are the tools we need, and what can we do to further making sure women have a fighting chance. So putting all together,
please continue, please continue.
So I was just going to say that I have a very diverse experience. I've served on nonprofit boards like the Philadelphia Foundation, where when I was the chair of the grant making committee, and I served there for a total of 9 years. That's the maximum a board member can serve. And one of the things I'm really proud of was pushing to make sure their grant making gave money for general operating purposes, not just for specific programs. And people in nonprofit who are listening will appreciate that, because sometimes you have to plan your program, plan your whole strategic outlook, and you can't just have programmatic resources. You need it across the board. So those are the kinds of things I've been working on to change at a granular level what it means to disrupt those systems that have held people back.
You know, I was and still am impressed with your academic background, but it seems that your political/civic background is just as impressive. And I'm so glad we had the opportunity to talk with you so that folks know what a great candidate you are and folks understand why I am such an enthusiastic endorser of you. We don't have a whole lot of time in addition to what we already talked about, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, but first thing I want to ask you is if folks want more information about your campaign, who your specific policy positions, who's endorsing you, how can folks get more information about you?
Yeah, please go to my website, ninaforphilly.com, NINAFORPHILLY.com. If you want to see me on Twitter, it's Nina Ahmed PHL, and that's at Nina Ahmed PHL. And if you want to reach me on Facebook, it's Nina for Philly. If you want to reach me on Instagram, it's also Nina for Philly. I am always responsive to anybody who reaches out to me. My daughter, who also staffs me a lot of times, she tells people, when you email my mom through the website, she will respond to you within 24 hours or let you know if she needs more time. Because I deeply believe that responsive and communicating is one of the fundamental principles that gives hope to people. And that's why I want to serve with that in mind.
I didn't know anything about the Office of Public Engagement until I found out that you launched it. And I'm like, why didn't somebody come up with this 50 years ago? I mean, it's that important. And we can tell that you are sincerely into public engagement. Folks who just tuned in, you're listening to the voice of City Council candidate Nina Ahmad. I have her on because in my personal opinion, she's such a qualified candidate. She has to be among the 5 who are placed in a position to be elected. Now, this is just the primary in May, but because one party, the Democrats, outnumber Republicans 7-1, pretty much those who win in May will also win in November. Dr. Nina Ahmad, and by the way, folks need to know she holds a PhD in chemistry. I wasn't joking at the beginning when I said she's a rocket scientist, because she's that academically and intellectually thorough, but not in an elitist kind of way. She's a person of the people. And you could tell that the way she presented herself today, and as you found out about this Office of Public Engagement. Nina, in our final minute or two, or 3 or 4 minutes, however much time you need, this is the TV courtroom show. And in courtroom proceedings, as in trials, they have a closing argument. So we're going to give you 2 to 3 minutes or so for your closing argument. Anything you want to add, anything you want to repeat, anything you want to highlight, the microphone is yours.
First, thank you to you, Michael Cord. You have always had my back. You have always had conversations to understand who I am. And you're allowing me this opportunity to have a conversation with Philadelphia through your courtroom event. So I'm very grateful for that. 2, I'm very grateful to Philadelphia, as I said before, and I always reiterated that it is the community, and particularly the Black community, that has really embraced me and helped me get on this political path, but otherwise I could not do it. I did not mention earlier that I did run for office before. I was the Auditor General candidate from the Democratic Party 20. I won a very contested primary, and in the general, I just ran out of steam. It takes so much resources to fight back all the lies that the Republicans were throwing against me. But the point is, I got in there, I got over 3 million votes. I got more votes than Hillary Clinton in 2016, more than Barack Obama in 2012, which says we have made progress. We have to continue to make progress to get an immigrant, brown, Muslim woman like me, a scientist and an advocate for women, to get as far as I did. This time I'm going to cross that finish line for Philadelphia that has always had my back. And I thank all of you for listening to me, and hopefully I can earn everybody's vote. My ballot number is 66. Just like Route 66 going forward. So thank you very much again, Michael. I deeply appreciate your support.
In our final 10 seconds, I want to thank our producer, our engineer, Roland, for putting up your website. But for those who missed it, please repeat your website once again.
My website is ninaforphilly.com.
I got to tell you, I don't know if I want to call you Dr. Ahmad or Sister Nina. I'll call you both. I just want to make sure that folks support me in supporting you and voting for you on or before May 16th. One of the new city council members, assuming you all do the right thing, Nina Ahmad. Thank you very much for spending time with us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything. Thanks to everyone.
All right. Folks, I got to tell you, we had 3 great guests today. We had Northeast High School students, Amia Harris and Kadedra Mattis, thanks to their teacher. I'm calling their teacher, Professor Dr. Keziah Ridgway. And then we wrap things up with Sister Nina Ahmad, who holds a PhD in chemistry. You know how intellectually, how academically deep that is? But the way she presents herself in such a genuine way, she could be a sister from North Philly. She's that cool and down to earth. But for me, more than that, her progressive politics, the fact that she supports the rights of women for pay equity, supports the rights of women to end workplace harassment. She's just done so much to get us as far as we've gotten here in Philly. Can you imagine how much farther she can get us in the role of a city council person? Do what I'm doing. Support Nina Ahmad. And let me do this, folks. It's 4:24. I got about maybe 3 minutes left. So I don't have enough time to explain each of my personal endorsements in the May 16 primaries. I'm just going to fly through their names, write them down, and also write this down. My radio courtroom show on WURD 96.1 FM from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday, May 6th. I'll spend more time explaining what and who these candidates are. But here's my endorsements. And by the way, these are my endorsements. This is not necessarily the position of those who are responsible for TV Courtroom, those who are the officials or the board or the management or the ownership or the staff or the employees of PhillyCam. This is just my personal list of endorsements, starting with Mayor Helen Gim. One word, progressive. And by progressive, I mean forward-thinking, shaking up the establishment in order to help those who are impressed. By far, Helen Gim is the most qualified candidate as a progressive to make real change here in Philadelphia. Vote Helen Gim for mayor. In regard to city council district officers, there are 5. Number 1, Nina Ahmad. Number 2, Isaiah Thomas. Number 3, Catherine Gilmore Richardson. Number 4, Melissa Robbins. Number 5, Sherry Cohens. Once again, Nina Ahmad, Isaiah Thomas, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Melissa Robbins, Sherry Cohen. Those are the 5 at-large positions. Now let's go to city council districts. 2nd district, Kenyatta Johnson. 3rd district, Jamie Gaudier. 4th district, Curtis Jones Jr. 5th district, Jeffrey J. Young Jr. 7th district, Quetzi Lozada. 8th district, Cindy Bass. 9th district, Anthony Phillips. Once again, district persons: 2nd district, Kenyatta Johnson. 3rd district, Jamie Gaudier. 4th district, Curtis Jones. 5th district, Jeffrey J. Young Jr. 7th district, Quetzi Lozada. 8th district, Cindy Bass. And finally, 9th district, Anthony Phillips. Then we jump to controller, Christy Brady. Controller, Christy Brady. Register of Wills, one of the most qualified candidates, an incumbent, somebody who took the position and brought it to the hood. That's none other than Tracy Gordon. Tracy Gordon is one of the most qualified candidates in the history of people running for Register of Wills. She's a sister, she's from the hood, and she has brought the office of the Register of Wills to people who never knew what it was about. And she's making it accessible to common everyday people. Clearly, the Register of Wills, current Register of Wills, she's already in office. She's the incumbent running for re-election to continue the great work she's doing. Register of Wills, Tracy Gordon. Sheriff, Rochelle Bilal. Let me repeat that. Sheriff, Rochelle Bilal. City commissioners, there are 2 spots available. Number 1, Omar Sabir. Number 2, Lisa Dealey. Again, 2 positions available in city for the city commissioners. 1, Omar Sabir. 2, Lisa Dealey. And write these down. I'm going to go through them very quickly. These are the judicial candidates. Supreme Court, 1 spot available, Daniel McCaffrey. Superior Court, 2 spots available. You got to remember Tamika Lane. That's Tamika Lane for Superior Court. The other for Superior Court is Jill Beck, because there's 2. Please remember them both, especially the first one, Tamika Lane, Superior Court. Commonwealth Court, Matt Wolf. Common Pleas Court, very quickly, Samantha Williams, Natasha Taylor Smith, Kwawi Abdul Rahman, Joe Green, Jessica Brown, Caroline Turner, KU, Tamika Washington, Chesley Lightsey, and Kenneth Joel. For Municipal Court, there are 2, Barbara Thompson and Colleen McIntyre Osborne. For more information, check me out tomorrow, Saturday, Radio Courtroom, WURD 96.1 FM. I'll end today's show like I end every show. It goes like this. Think Black, I'm out.